It's all fun and games until you get a serious attack. A lot of targeted individuals are covertly drugged or covertly poisoned. It's something that is dreaded. Unless it's happened to you, you can't understand how it feels. What do you do? How do you deal with it? How do you keep yourself safe? How do you prepare for this type of attack? Will you ever come back, or will you be permanently incapacitated? In this one, prevention is definitely worth a pound of cure. When I discuss these things, I always give a warning because a lot of targeted individuals are sensitized, and a lot of them, well, they've got a lot of stuff to worry about anyway. And sometimes when you're preparing for something, when you're delving into an issue, well, sometimes it causes a lot of anxiety, and this is one of them. And the reality that targeted individuals are being attacked by people, it brings up a lot of possibilities. So if you're one of those people that, get scared, or you're afraid that you're going to become more paranoid by listening to something like this, well, you might not want to. You've had fair warning, because, the problem with group harassment, the problem with people being attacked, targeted for all kinds of malicious behavior, for break-ins, for, their personal property to be destroyed, for workplace harassment, for street theater, for gaslighting, for the destruction of all kinds of things in their life, you are left to speculate where the boundaries really are. If somebody breaks into your house and it moves something around to let you know that they've been there, who's to say what else they've done? You never know. You just don't. That's the reality of it. If they can do something, and if they really want to, what's to stop them from doing it? And a lot of targeted individuals get threats, and they're never nice. There's a lot of different aspects to group harassment, and, some of them are, easier to deal with than others. But I've mentioned this a lot, that, when you're playing this game, they have to get your attention. And they don't do it, by sending you a Christmas present. They do it by getting your attention by, usually scaring the crap out of you, letting you know that you're being watched. In your face type of street theater, gaslighting, break-ins. You might even get assaulted while you're asleep. Things can happen. And, whatever it takes to get the targeted individual shook up, to let them know that they are being hunted down, that they are being pursued, that people, they have it in for them, and they are being watched. They are being stalked. They are being weighed in the scales of the balance of all these people who have let them know that they're after them. And, the possibilities are just, limitless. They really are. And a lot of times, targeted individuals will get that treatment. They will get attacked in some of their familiar places where they might go shopping, or they might go out to eat. Things can be, choreographed, and, if they're hacking your phone And, they're listening to your, phone conversations and watching your texts, and you're one of those people that plan things in advance. Well, that leaves open a lot of possibilities. And if they have resources, well, that's even worse. People do just about anything for money. And, not all targeted individuals get the break-ins and all that stuff, but a lot of them do. And when it happens, you don't know what the hell they're up to. And a lot of times they'll do that. I've had that happen to me. That was really how they got my attention. The street theater and stuff like that. It was, it was kind of freaky and, whatever. But, when the invasions started to happen, and you combine that with the street theater, that's really when I started to take notice. I had somebody come out a little bit later and admit to me that they were paid to help drive me crazy, and that the stuff that was making me throw up, that was put in my food, really wasn't there to give me cancer, which is what a lot of the street theater was about. It was Epicac, the guy said, and it happened. First came all the suggestions. Here's what you can do to this. Here's what you can do to that. You can covertly kill somebody, by putting this in, their milk or whatever, or putting this in their food. And then, 5, 10 years later, they get cancer and die, or sooner, or whatever. And there was a lot of options. That people were, just coming out with all this weird stuff. And then, of course, all of a sudden, the food in my fridge was making me throw up, totally messing with my head. And, after I kind of got over that stuff, it wasn't just that either. There was, other things, amphetamines, LSD, other things that did things that I'm not even going to get into. It's one thing for somebody to break into your house and loosen up the salt shaker or something and say, "Yeah, I got you." It's another thing for somebody to do something like that. It's unexcusable. And it's very traumatizing. And really, once it happens, you're dealing with a lot of different things, because you have to deal with the paranoia. Okay, but you have to be real. And you have to look at it in a way where you're not doing lateral comparisons, because that's a temptation, right? You're gonna be dealing with different things than other people. And, it's gonna be an opportunity for them to frustrate you. And, it's important that you give yourself a lot of slack, because anytime people get traumatized, they become irrational. Okay. I've talked about that a lot. When you deal with trauma, when you deal with an attack, you become obsessed and you become fearful, and you don't want it to happen again. Whatever it is. It doesn't matter if it's a break-in. It doesn't matter if it's covert drugging or poison. It doesn't matter if it's workplace harassment, whatever it is. And there's that obsession, and you're worried about it, and you have to think about it. Or, you're just paranoid. You have a lot of trust issues after that. You don't know. Because, if people are out there and, they're conspiring against you for whatever reason, or they're influenced by something, even something spiritual, who knows what's going to happen. And, depending on what you're dealing with, whether people are being paid, are they going to, are they going to turn on you for some cash, or is it something else? Is it some kind of spiritual manipulation? I mean, and at that point, can you really afford to just, take chances, right? You can't just, jump into the water without, at least testing it out a little bit. And, you're going to have those irrational fears. Everything is going to be suspect, and especially if you're one of those people who gets a lot of it and different types. Because when people are attacked with group harassment, it is not just once, even though that's enough to mess you up, right? People usually get over it, if it's just one time or whatever, and then they might take some security measures around their dwelling or whatever, or they'll come up with different protocols, which is what I'm kind of getting at. You have to do that, otherwise you're going to be obsessed. You're going to be thinking about this stuff. If you just, take measures to prevent the opportunities, and just not think about it and not hassle yourself about being paranoid, that's really the best thing to do, right? Because, it's just, what are you going to do? So you have to let that, time frame, kind of work its way out. And you have to use the process of elimination when you're using protocols. So the first time, somebody gets hit with something like that, well, it'll take them a little while to get over it, but if nothing happens, in time, they'll kind of go back. They'll start trusting things or whatever, or they'll kind of loosen up a little bit, but they're not going to let you do that, right? And they'll do something else. And then you become sensitized in a way where you're apprehensive about everything. It doesn't matter what it is. Eventually they will get you to the point if unless you can stop them, you will be, basically, afraid to keep food in your dwelling or whatever the case is, whether it's something in your hygiene products or whatever is going on, because that's the goal. They want to make you dysfunctional. They want to get you to that place where you're, completely, out of touch with everything. You're completely obsessed with being attacked, and you're gonna snap, and you're going to talk, or people around you are just gonna think you're crazy. Then you're gonna be alone. You're gonna be isolated. And that's what they want. They want to break you down in that way. They want to get you all alone. They want to get you obsessed with things, dysfunctional. And they want you to just go crazy, basically. And, if you've experienced that type of attack, you're going to have to develop the protocols, okay? You might have to stop using your fridge. You're definitely going to have to get some security measures, some cameras, maybe even ones that hook up to your phone, mix it up a little bit. You have to give yourself back some of that control that they're going to take away from you. Because, first of all, and I've said this a lot, you can't control what other people are going to do. Forget that. You can't tell them how right you are. You can't use morality. You can't try to scare them, because usually you don't know exactly who it is or when they're going to do it. So forget that. You're just going to have to, turn your house into an obstacle course. You're going to have to, be sneaky, be clever. And you're going to have to get security measures, and you're going to have to develop protocols, and, depending on what you're dealing with, you're going to have to come up with reasonable excuses to kind of cover up the stuff that you're doing too, because you don't want to get called out. A lot of the stuff that is done to people is to get them to be obvious, for other people to notice that they're off. And then, of course, they're going to be talking about it or whatever, or they might, try to infiltrate your social circle and point things out. And you're going to have to come up with reasons as to why you're paranoid. And you're going to have to do that in a clever way, rather than to say, I'm the targeted individual, or I'm, a victim of a conspiracy, because then it goes into the other area. And that involves the psychological criteria to say that you're mentally ill, and it just gets into that snowball effect. So guys, You have to develop protocols. You have to forgive yourself. You have to keep yourself safe. Be good to yourself.